Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. We're excited to have you here today, and I'm excited to have my partners and a good friend here today. So, welcome, Lori, and welcome, Kari.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Tammy. Thank you. Greetings to everybody watching from anywhere around the world and watching as a recording. So that's why I say greetings. And we're happy to have Carrie. Carrie and Tammy know each other. They're from the same area here in the United States in Idaho. Carrie has a degree in landscaping, correct? And horticulturism.
Yes.
And we're happy to see, this is all about art and nature. So guess what? Tammy is excited to share this amazing person that where Tammy goes and buys beautiful flower baskets, etc. So everybody, let's get
Well,
ready to listen.
well,
Yes.
Kari is an artist in her own way. So, people don't realize it, but when you're designing flower baskets, hanging baskets, and everything else that Kari does, it's an art. And she designs them beautifully. I still have my baskets, of course. I order them from her every year because she is so creative and such a great artist, and her plants just thrive. But
Okay.
this is from all of her experience. And so we're going to learn her story, what led her to what she does today. So, Carrie, we're going to start with you on as a little girl on the farm. So you get to share
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah. Well, so I grew up on a farm and ranch in Montana, and it has been passed down from generation to generation. And on the farm, when you're growing up, you learn to work hard and then you play hard. But working hard comes first, and you get all of that done, and then you can go play at the lake or go camping or whatnot. And so that was instilled in me as a young gal. And we lived 22 miles out of town. So um, we have large pantries, so you have to be prepared in large gardens. And that's kind of where it all started for me is um, helping my parents plant the garden, grow the garden, and then, harvest the garden, and then starting to process and can and so I started that young, and my granny, I was a little shadow sponge with my granny because she had a garden. And when we were done in my parents' garden, we'd go to my granny's garden and help her out. So my hands were always in the soil and I loved it. I just didn't know that I loved it as much as I loved it.
What's so funny, that's almost my same story when I was growing up. So,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So ever since I could walk, I've been playing in the dirt, and it's just gratifying to be able to plant something in the soil and watch it grow and then have it produce something of food or beauty, whether it's a carrot or a flower. It's just gratifying to see that mature and grow. And you did it. You did it along with Mother Nature. You gave some guidance, but Mother Nature has a big a role in that. So, yeah. So it all started on the farm in Montana as a little girl.
so what was
We
your favorite thing to grow?
Well, as a little kid, I would say my favorite thing to grow would be corn, all of our corn. I was into vegetables. We didn't grow flowers at that time. Because we needed to grow food. And so corn was my favorite because it was easy to plant, um, and it grew really fast. And then once it was mature, my brother and I, we would, go play in the corn and hide and play with our dogs in the corn because it was so tall, it's taller than us. So that was probably my favorite crop.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, well, and it's always so rewarding because the vegetables from our gardens always taste so much better when you can
Yes.
just go down to the garden and pick it. Lori
Yeah.
got to come here last year at this time, and she'd go down, went with me down to our garden here to pick stuff for dinner and stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing is going down to the garden to pick your what you're cooking for dinner. Yeah. So, and we not only had a big garden growing up, we had the old time root cellar where you dug a big hole in the ground, and we had these little wooden steps that you would go down, and then a door, and it was kind of scary, and you could smell the smells of the wet soil, and um, so it was kind of scary. But we had the old time root cellar, and yeah, it's fun times.
Well, it's the sheds, and we had a root cellar too. And but then my one grandparents grew potatoes and the
Yep.
big potato sheds. And like you said,
Yes.
the smells in the sheds, the smells in the garden when you just pick a fresh tomato, you walk in the plants themselves,
Yeah.
the corn plants, everything has a certain smell to it.
Yes. Yes. And then so I eventually evolved into flowers, not until I got into college. So growing up on the farm, vegetables, and as a farm and rancher, we had cattle and we had wheat. So then I get into college and I get into the horticulture landscape design program, and decided that um, that's the avenue that I wanted to take in my future. And I loved all the soil classes, the plant classes, everything was just, kind of jiving with how I grew up. So it kind of came pretty easy to me. But I got out of college and went right into landscape designing. So meaning I was at a desk drawing landscape projects for people. And that was fun and creative, but I quickly learned that I'm not an inside desk person. I'm a doer. I got to get outside and I got to get my hands in that dirt. I'm a doer. And
I
so
get
that was one of the elements that the landscape designing wasn't fulfilling for me. So after, I'd say 4 or 5 years of landscape designing, that's when I decided I was going to build my first greenhouse. And I saved and saved and saved my money to build it. And I built it myself and a friend. I have no construction. um, I have no construction
were
abilities,
you
but
building this in Montana
no,
or
this was here in my hometown now of Coeur d'Alene.
oh, okay.
So I got my first greenhouse built, and that's when the flower business started flying. And that's like, this is it. I'm in my little bubble, and the smells of the soil. My greenhouse was my office at that time. So
Well, now you have how many greenhouses that
I
you
have
do
three
have?
greenhouses now. They're large to me. They're small to a big grower. I'm considered a small greenhouse grower. I like to call myself a little boutique greenhouse because I'm small and unique.
But believe me, they're big.
Yeah, they're big. So yeah, and then just going in the greenhouse, I start up in February. And just in February, when it's cold up here in northern Idaho, the smell of the soils and the plants that are starting to grow, it's just, I open up my greenhouse doors in the mornings when I get there, and it is just like my aha moment, and I can breathe and I can think and I have clarity, and I'm just like in my zone.
Carrie, I love your story and I love your passion. It can't, it's just like the way your eyes sparkle and everything is just amazing. I have here Diane Anspaugh. I'm not sure that I'm
Yeah.
saying that right. And then
Yes.
Aika. So I want to say shout out to them for watching live as we broadcast. And Aika is saying that she's happy to be here and then how fun to grow your own food. And then Diane is saying that you two, Tammy and Carrie, are two of her favorite artists and women. So
Aw, thank you, Diane.
like Tammy said, Carrie is definitely an artist. So I want to ask you, Carrie, you're rooted in Montana, your landscape design and horticulture education, yet you run a business in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
So how did you get there?
Yeah, so growing up in Montana, I my parents like to take my brother and I have an older brother, a year older than I, um, on a trip right before school started. So we did some traveling as kids, and so I I, as traveling, I would like to, look at all different sorts of uh, horticulture and landscape. So going to college, graduated college, and then I wanted to get out of Montana, like all 20 something year olds, they want to get out of their home state and explore. So I found an internship in Santa Barbara, California. And so I spent a summer there working at a botanical gardens and exploring that area. And I'm like, I kind of like this climate. And then after that internship was up, I found myself in Tucson, Arizona, and I worked at a golf resort as their horticulturist. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm in the sunshine state. I love warm weather. I love the sun. And so I was there for 2 years. And then the Montana gal came out of me. I'm like, I got to get back to the north. I got to get back to the Four Seasons. And so I found myself from Tucson landing my final destination here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Well, we're glad you are here. So,
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't have too many steps after college in getting to Coeur d'Alene, but to me, this is paradise. I mean, it's
I
great
agree. I
growing
agree.
conditions.
That's what I was gonna say about Tammy's garden and homestead and all that. It's just like paradise because it's just like garden to table and all that is just like she said, so organic, so fresh, so delicious. So, Carrie, what advice would you give someone who wants to build any kind of business or a plant design business in their local community, or they're on the fence, like, oh, do I do this or not?
Yeah,
What were you
good question.
thinking, and what were you thinking, and what gave you that spark and motivation to, because motivation is not the answer, like we know, it's just taking action on that motivation. So what helped you?
Well, the first thing is when you're wanting to start a business is you need to surround yourself with the right people and then ask those people the right questions. Sometimes there might be questions that you don't know to ask that you need to ask. And just by surrounding yourself with the right people, you can start that dialogue and fine tune the start of your business to how you want to start it. You can also look at other businesses, out of the state, around the world, in your community. How did they get to where they are? And if you're asking yourself that question, then go to them and ask them, what how did you get here? And then you take all that information and then you can fine tune it to how you want your business to look. And then you just start there, and then all along the way you're fine tuning it. You're learning as you're going and you're just fine tuning it. So I would say surrounding yourself with the right people at the right time. And don't be afraid to go to somebody who you think is your competitor. One of my best friends and my biggest mentor lives probably 20 minutes away from me, and they grow flowers and hanging baskets and bedding plants. But they're my biggest mentor because I have my own little niche and they have their own little niche. So we're not technically competitors, even though we're in the same market. We are helping each other. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is coming together with and surrounding yourself with people who are in that same industry and avenue of business.
like-minded
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like-minded people.
And mentorship, the power of proximity, and then also with you inviting people to ask questions is just the mentor part of it, or coaching part of it. Whether we want to look at it like that or not, that's basically what it is, because you're asking someone, how did you get there? How can I get there? And then you need to ask yourself, what am I willing to do? And the sacrifices that I can make to obtain it. And then who was your mentor?
My mentor was a wholesaler greenhouse just in Washington, and his name is Paul. And his dad, it's family owned, so that was really important to me, that it was family owned. And they have a lot more employees than I do. I have one employee, and So it's his name was Paul, and his dad's name was Steve, and they just have really guided me from the very beginning. It's taken me, I've been in this business for 20 years now, and I baby stepped it along the way. And I think that's really important when you're starting a business as well, when it's a small entrepreneurial business, is you got to kind of take those steps and kind of crawl, then walk, and then you can run with it once you feel that confidence of, hey, this feels right, and I'm pretty sure I'm headed in the right direction.
I love
You
that.
are. And Carrie has an amazing family that comes in and helps her. I've met all of them. They are awesome. So which you are totally blessed with such a family. I love it. But Carrie,
Yes.
how many, to give people an idea, how many plants do you plant for your flower baskets
Yeah.
each year?
Yeah. So, so I have three greenhouses, and they are 60 feet long by 30 feet wide. So that sounds big to a lot of people, but it's like the guys who build their shops. They're thinking they're
They're
building
never
this
big enough.
great big shop, and then they move in and they get everything in there, and it's never big enough. So I kind of feel that way about my greenhouses, but um, I'm a it's myself, and I have another employee, which her name is Kari, spelled the same way as me, Kari. And we're like two peas in a pod. But anyway, I only have one employee. And so I have opportunity to build one more greenhouse, but I'm at a capacity where I am comfortable with what I'm doing at the level that I'm doing. I don't want to lose sight of what is important to me, and that is my clients' needs, and not mass producing. I want to, specifically keep my mind dialed into each specific client and their needs. So two of my greenhouses are all custom pre-order, pre-sold items in those two greenhouses. And then my third greenhouse is what I consider my hub, which is a kind of like my retail greenhouse. So that's where all the designing happens, and all of my product is grown in there, in the 4-inch plants. And that's where I can pick from my tables and start designing specific for my clients. I pick from the tables in that one greenhouse. So that greenhouse is called, my greenhouses are all named Daisy, Petunia, and Tulip. So Daisy Greenhouse is the greenhouse where it is deemed the retail greenhouse for when I'm done designing. And I don't want to call them my leftover plants, but they are my leftover plants. So they're the plants that I didn't use when I finished designing my custom pre-orders. And so then I have a season opener, and that's when that's where the retail part comes in. That's where people come into Daisy Greenhouse during my season opener, and they create their own, or pick some designed baskets that weren't pre-ordered. So
About how many plants does it take, though, do you
yeah,
plant? The
I
seeds, I
just
mean, those are
am.
so tiny, those petunia seeds, though.
Yes, I have. So how it works with me, I probably have. Um, oh, that's a good question, Tammy. I probably have 50,000 plants that I bring in, all different varieties. And I do probably 1,000 hanging baskets. And the floors of my petunia and tulip greenhouses are all filled with custom pre-order containers. And amongst those containers, there's 3 or 4 different sizes in those containers. The floors are filled, and I would guesstimate there's probably 500 or 600 containers on the floors of my greenhouses too. So there's quite a bit of product, but again, that's small potatoes to the big growers around in the country. But again, I don't mass produce. So each one is a specific designed container or hanging basket for a client. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, it is. So, and I love it because I love my baskets I get every year from Carrie and stuff. But I think some people that are watching that are into creating, I know one of the tricks is about soil. So, do you want to talk about what a little
Oh,
bit about what you put into these? So, those that live in other countries or other places around the world kind of know.
great question, Tammy. Soil is one of the major foundations of building your design. It's just like building a house. You have to have a good foundation to have a good solid house. So this in horticulture and in my business, that's the soil. So there are three different kinds of soils that I use in my containers based on the needs of that specific design. So I design specific for the light, first of all, the lighting situation that each design is going to be in. So say a client comes to me and orders a 18-inch basket for full sun. So I give the client the opportunity to um, come to me with their color theme and the dialed in lighting situation for that. So then I know what kind of soil I'm going to use for those specific plants that are going to be planted in that full sun 18-inch basket. So the soil in that basket is going to have a good water holding capacity because full sun, it's going to be hot. It's those plants are going to be growing like crazy in the full sun. And so I want a soil that's going to hold on to water, that has good water holding capacity. So that soil will have a lot of peat in it and just it'll just, it won't drain out the bottom. It will hold on to that soil versus say a client comes to me and say, I want a shade basket or container. So that is a different soil. Shade plants normally don't soak up the water like full sun plants. So I want that water to drain a little bit more. So I use a little sandier, less peat in my soil combination for those containers. And then the third soil that I use is for my very, very large containers. So a very large container to me is 18 inches round at the top by 16 inches tall. That's a pretty deep container that has quite a bit of soil. And I use those because the client might want a large focal point to go into it, which has what? A good root system. So I need that soil to be kind of a mixture between the good peat holding water retention soil and the good well draining soil that is a little bit sandier. So I mix the two soils for a lot of my large containers. So the roots need oxygen, just like you and I need oxygen to breathe and to live. And so that soil is going to give those roots the proper oxygen um, as as the heat starts coming on during our season and as the plants start growing and soaking up more water. In a shade situation, the plants aren't going to soak up as much water as they are in a full sun situation. Yeah.
I start thinking about all this, and I'm sure you have learned with your degree, studies, etc., and by experience. And I remember the little saying that goes, "Failing is not fatal." How has it been with you, like trial and error, and what are some
Oh,
lessons you've learned that would surprise people?
another great question. I must say that I have learned the most from my failures because when we fail, if you're like me, I don't like to fail, but in a sense, it's okay because I learn more. I pay attention to that. Oh my gosh, I just failed. So did I'm failing myself? I might be failing my client. I don't like that feeling. So I pay attention to those failures and put in my brain and document, okay, what do I not need to do again? What do I need to do different to not put myself in that position? And so the failures are where I have learned the most. And there's so many of them, I can't even begin to, mention them. But I think that makes you uh, a lot more dialed into the perspective and your goal is when you learn from your failures.
And when you own up to them, especially if it's an internal failure, nobody needs to know. You course correct with whatever it is in the process, because
Yes.
gardening is so complex, I'm sure. But then with a client owning, I mean, I hope, or my philosophy is owning up to it. I apologize and trying to make up for it, compensating and over delivering maybe, so they will be happy.
Yes. Well, that's where Mother Nature comes in, is I provide a product, and when it leaves the greenhouse, that product in my mind is perfect. It's bug free, it's healthy, and I have created the foundation for it to be well on its way. But when they are taken from the nest and out into the real world where they're not in the bubble anymore, that's where Mother Nature comes into play. And so, there might be a hailstorm, there might be a downpour, there might be extreme hot
Win.
winds, exactly in northern Idaho. And there just might be other elements that Mother Nature dishes out at us that are out of our control. So I think that has been a big lesson for me, because I try not to take things personally, but there's some things that are out of our control that um, we can't do anything about. It just is the way it is, and we learn from that. So, say for instance, we have a plant that is tender. There's always breeders out there breeding new genetics into plants, and so that tender plant might have the most beautiful flower in the whole wide world, but it's so delicate that the wind might knock it over. So the breeders are like, we gotta change the genetics in this plant so it has a stronger stalk or stronger stem, because this flower, people are loving it. And so there's all kinds of breeding and genetics going on with the flower world. Um, so yeah.
So I have a quick question. And I know this has happened before, is it's amazes me, and I've talked to people that do, they'll buy their flower baskets, hanging baskets, and they don't fertilize, they don't even look, and then they wonder why their plant looks dead within 30 days.
Yeah.
Can you tell people kind of a little bit about watering, or what to look for bugs, fertilizing?
Yes. So I, again, going back to the foundation of the plant and building a good foundation, not only is the soil important, but when the plants are in my care, I apply a really great product. It's called mycorrhiza, and it's a beneficial fungus that once it is applied to the plant, it attaches to the roots of the plant and grows in parallel with the plant until death. So it's a living organism attached to the roots of the plant, which is the host, and it's little fingers, extenders on the roots that take up nutrients and fertilizers and water uh, better. So if your plant goes into drought, and you forget to water it, the micro and you're like, oh my gosh, my plant is wilting. I forgot to water it. And you put water on it and you're like crossing your fingers thinking, oh, I hope this pops back. Well, when it's in the drought stage, that's when the mycorrhiza is the most important. So this fungus that is on the roots, this natural fungus, it gets the water is applied to the plant and it goes to work. So it is soaking in the water, and it is trying to get as much nutrients and water back into the plant as possible. So that is something that I add on my end to help clients be successful in the long run with their baskets. And then also, again, the soil, the mycorrhiza. And then I also plant all of my baskets and containers up with a slow release fertilizer. And that is temperature and water controlled. So as the temperatures start getting hotter, warmer, that slow release fertilizer releases a little bit more fertilizer. It's kind of like a multivitamin. Like when we're taking our multivitamin in the morning, the release fertilizer is just like that for the plant, but it's based on temperature and moisture throughout the season. So that is already in the baskets, in the containers to help the clients be successful in the long run. So once they leave, again, the nest, and it's the client's responsibility to now start caring for this beautiful design. The most important thing is knowing how to water. A lot of times people have their annual flowers hooked up to an irrigation system, and that irrigation system might be connected to their shrub bed that is around in their yard. And oftentimes the needs for the flowers aren't the same needs of water for the shrub bed. So then it might get underwatered or overwatered. So therefore, I recommend clients putting an adjustable irrigation head on their plant. So if you don't have the luxury of an irrigation system for your annuals, then you really have to be cognizant of the weather and how often you need to water your plants. That's when your neighbors become really good friends. So if you're a weekend warrior and you're going away for the weekend, hey, neighbor, friendly neighbor, I need my plants watered. Can you help me out here? I need a break. So, but watering is really important. And again, going back to sun plants versus shade plants, they require different water applications. And
So,
then fertilizer with so with the fertilizer, this is the last thing. Even though I have the slow release fertilizer, I still highly recommend the homeowner or client to apply a bloom booster type of fertilizer every 2 weeks. Again, that slow release fertilizer is just like a multivitamin, but with them soaking up the moisture and the nutrients as it starts getting hotter, we need to apply that a bloom booster fertilizer, which is a fertilizer that promotes the plant to produce buds, which are the flowers. And every 2 weeks, some clients do it every week, which they have a great response. Sometimes clients have hard to get to containers, that it's not easy to fertilize every week or 2 weeks. So that a bloom booster, really good bloom booster fertilizer is key to keeping your plants healthy looking and colorful and your neighbors jealous.
I wanna say something like with everything you have said, basically Tammy knows she's the country girl and I'm the city girl because of my surroundings and everything. And my grandma had a green thumb, but I haven't devoted as much time on this. But I love everything you're saying because there's so much to learn should I just decide to go this route, right? And it's just amazing. And the people that are doing it already, I'm sure have gotten great nuggets of wisdom with everything you shared. The way I look at it though, as we metaphorically apply it to or liken it to life, and the way you said like mentoring and all that, I see your integrity in your work because you like have emphasize the foundation and how you love and pride yourself of building that for you to be able to give something really, really good to your clients, a product that you have invested time and energy because you want out of your integrity, give them something that is amazing that you have already invested in. But then there's a lot of work that just is that you have put into, but then there's a lot of work that they need to do for maintenance.
Yes.
And I think you prepare them too, is my understanding. You kind of educate them a little bit on what is it that they need to do to keep that plant beautiful. Have you had clients that come back saying, "Hey, it died," or things like that? And what do you do in those situations? Do you check in and ask? It's like my husband is in IT, And the first question is your computer plugged? Or is it turned on, and things like that, the basics. What do you do when clients, you're doing your best? Do you take that personal, which we sometimes, especially heart center people and people that are passionate with, with what we do, take it like, oh no, where did I fail?
Yes.
Or have you gotten over that saying, no, it's on you?
Yes, it has taken me a while to understand that once the designs leave the greenhouse, it is somewhat out of my control, but I am there to help guide the client when problems arise. And I encourage all of my clients, any of my clients, to get in touch with me whenever they see something a little bit off about their design or their flowers, what's happening here, pictures. Sometimes if it's convenient, I can do an on-site visit. But pictures do a lot, and I want to know about those things, because if there's a plant that is not doing well in their environment, I want to know why it's not doing well, and get to the bottom of it. Because if it's something that is mechanical that they can change to make it better, I can address that and tell them, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what I think you should start doing. Sometimes when the heat starts coming on in northern Idaho, there's bugs, spider mites, aphids that just come out of the blue. We don't know that, you don't know where they come from. They're out there. They're just out there, and sometimes they might come and start attacking your flowers. And again, this is after leaving the greenhouse. So a client might see a leaf of a sweet potato vine that is starting to wilt or not look quite right, and so I want to kind of know those. And I used to take it personally, but I don't anymore. I just look at it as, okay, there's a problem. I hope that client will come to me so we can address it and see if there's something that can be done about it. And again, if there's something wrong with a plant, maybe it's a genetic thing that doesn't work in northern Idaho that would work in Texas. But I'm trialing a plant, and oh geez, it's just not looking good at all up here in northern Idaho. I want to know that kind of stuff too. So when I'm trialing stuff, I'm like, I got an 86 that plant. It's not going to be on my grow list for next year. So it's
Hmm.
good to know when designs or plants or baskets or containers um, aren't looking their best or doing what they're supposed to be doing, because then I know I need to fine tune something.
Well, and I've noticed from just going to friends' homes and different people like, how do you take care of your plants? And I'm like, well, I have a great person that designs my baskets for one. But, it's watering, overwatering, not enough water. Sometimes they
Yeah.
don't water, or find out 2 months later they never fertilized, they never checked for bugs, or the deer eat trimming them, all those kind of
Yeah.
things. But Carrie, we have a question from one of our guests, Ika. She wants to know, can you ask about when you're bringing in our hibiscus trees for the winter inside? Should I prune them prior to bringing them in, as well as adding an insecticide?
Oh
And
gosh.
how much
Okay.
do you prune them?
Hibiscus. Yes. This is not my expertise of horticulture, because hibiscus is a little bit different than the annual flowers. But what I can say, that depending on where she is in the country, if you're bringing it in, I'm assuming that she's in an area where it's going to frost or freeze. So the biggest thing is to keep it in a bright, lighted area, and make sure that you keep an eye on bugs, because bringing anything from the outside in, it's going to look good, and then all of a sudden it's like, hmm. and it's usually the bugs. You don't know that they're there when you're bringing it in, but it's usually bugs. And the thing when you're bringing something in like that to overwinter, watering is key factor. It's you don't want to overwater because they're kind of in um, uh, not a dormant stage, but kind of a dormant stage where they're not going to be growing like they are in the summertime. So you kind of dial back on the water, maybe fertilize once a month, and keep it in a nice bright window area. The problem with bringing things in over winter, especially in northern Idaho, is the daylight. People don't understand that. We have the daylight hours right now are dwindling, but in the heat of the summer, we have long days of light. In the winter, that is cut really short. So there's plants that need more light when you overwinter them. So if the hibiscus is starting to yellow or not look happy, it might need more light. So she might need to add some supplemental grow lights for it.
Should she prune it or add an insecticide?
Um, if I would only prune it if it's too big. But if it's at a good size, that it's not going to hinder the spot where she's going to bring it in, don't touch it. But in an insecticide, yes, I would probably add a granular insecticide to the soil, so it can take that up through the roots and it will systemically disperse throughout the whole plant. So if there is an issue with spider mites, which or aphids, which are the two top insects that might attack her hibiscus, that granular insecticide coming up through the roots to get into the veins of the plant will help a lot with the bugs. But only fertilize once a month for
You have a
interior.
favorite fertile? I mean, I know the Jackson bloom for the flowers. Do you have a favorite insecticide or
I
granules or some
yes,
ideas?
I don't know if it's uh, I get my granular insecticide in large quantities. And what I use is called Marathon. I don't know if that's available to the public in small quantities. Um, I would probably recommend to her going to a good garden center that has maybe a master gardener working in the garden center. I'm not really sure where that is, or going to a nursery here and asking them if they have a granular insecticide or an insecticide for interior plants. Um, I highly recommend going with the granular versus the spray to get it into the plant and into the system of the plant.
Well, I know for like my roses, I use the ortho one that has the fertilizer, the systemic, and
Yes,
for the bugs, it does everything. So
yeah. And that's okay. So that wouldn't be granular. That would be probably you mix it up with a
actually,
water.
no, they have a granular one
Okay.
as well. It's
Yeah.
more expensive, but
Yeah.
it works better than the liquid one because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's because it's more slow. So it
Yeah. And
releases slower.
so that's really important, bringing interior plants in to overwinter is that insecticide. And then fertilize just maybe once a week with a general fertilizer. You don't really want the plant to really grow like it does in the summer. You just want to overwinter it so you can put it out next season.
Yeah, we do that here in Texas, believe it or not. Our winters are not super cold, but they get cold enough that we bring some plants inside.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. We hope that answers. And you inspired her to be creative and she started weeding as she was listening to us. I'm not sure if she's still doing that. Diane had to leave. Pam, is here. We want to say hello to all of you. And if you have some closing remarks, whether that is encouraging people to go ahead and brave the gardening thing, or brave the let's do it, let's just find a mentor and get this business out of my head and my heart to show up to the world. I mean, what can you say, Kari?
Yeah. So I closing remarks. I have these quotes around my office, and one that always sticks out at me on a daily basis is without commitment, you'll never start. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So I kind of, base my business and how I go about doing things on commitment and consistency. And with those two things combined together, I keep fine tuning my business. And then I also, as far as mentorship, that is so important in a small business like mine. And surround yourself with the right people, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. And do what makes you happy, and create your own brand. Create what makes you tick. And that's what's going to make you different, because there's a lot of people out there that do the same thing as I do. But find your little niche and run with it. Make a commitment to it and be consistent with how you go about promoting your brand.
So I have a question for you, and this is going back to what we're all about, is about using nature in our homes and outside of our homes to help with anxiety, to help with
Yeah.
calming us, And so my question is what would you say to people that are like, oh, I don't want to bother with the plant, but yet the plant brings so much joy. It adds to your deck. It adds inside your home. What would you say to those people?
I would say give it a try. Let me try to change your mind. And give me the reasons why you're unsure about wanting to incorporate something of this um, matter. And give me those reasons. And then just let me go to work and change your mind that you are going to love it. You can do it. It's not going to be a problem. I just need to know the details of why you're really unsure about it. And then that's when I can put my thinking cap on and design for that specific person.
Well, thank you. I love
Love
it.
it.
The reason why I'm going to say this, I order at least 8 baskets from Kari every year. The very large ones, and they're on my front deck, they're on my back deck, and I could probably use more. But my husband kind of limits me a little bit. Otherwise, I need to work with at Carrie's greenhouse for her for free.
Love
But
that.
it's because the deer don't eat the hanging baskets because they're up high enough, and the elk and the moose usually leave them alone. So it gives me that spot of color, and it's just so cheerful. And everybody that even comes here is like, "Oh my gosh, your baskets are amazing. We love
Good.
them. Where do you get them?" And of course, I always refer them to you. But they're it's simple, yeah, and not complicate. You just have to commit to watering, and we just hire somebody to come in and
Yeah.
water when we're gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know my grandson, we hired him because we didn't have anything really set up for him. It took him 2 hours to water our stuff, because we have a huge garden and everything, but he got paid well.
Well, that's where the commitment and consistency comes in.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for all your insights, your motivation about gardening and just getting it, doing it, failing forward and learning from those lessons, but then for a long time happiness and joy with all this
Yeah.
beauty around us. I've been to Tammy's and definitely those hanging baskets are amazing, stunning, and add so much to her home. So thank you so much for being here, Kari. And we want to
Yes.
invite you to share this joy, this happiness in a world where it can be dark. We want to be a spark of light and positivity in your life. So thanks for those watching live. We had a good
Yes.
amount of
Thank
people
you.
here today. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for that's here today. It was our honor to have Kari, great friend. She's so creative. We love it. We love that sparkle from her flower baskets. But we are so thankful that you are here. Feel free to share this. Check out our website, unlockingfreedominnature.com. We have different things there and different speakers. We're on YouTube. Share our podcast. We love it. We love having you here. Any questions? Please put them in the notes below. We'll check them out and we will answer them. Thanks again for being here and hope everyone has a great week. Bye now.
Thank you.